So we did the fourth National Climate Assessment Key Message 2, specifically impacts on the ecosystem. The people that helped created this was myself, Alyssa, and Alyssa Moville, Faith Marshall, Catherine Hammond, Kennedy Spicer, and Madison Fields. So what we'll be encompassing on this assignment is that climate change affects the ecosystem's productivity. Specifically, they do this by the primary producers being affected from the increase in CO2 and temperatures, as well as changing of interactions between species.
The supporting evidence to this starts with primary productivity. Projections suggest decreasing primary production in many arid regions due to worsening droughts. Modest to moderate declines in ocean primary production are projected for most low to mid latitude oceans, and most models project increasing primary productivity in the Arctic due to decreasing ice cover. The second piece of evidence given in the text is about altered species interactions. So rapid phenological changes at the base of the marine food web can create a mismatch with consumers, disrupting the ability of food for young. And range expansions can lead to local extinctions, such as a kelp-eating fish moving into an area with a lot of kelp, and suddenly kelp no longer lives there anymore.
So some of the uncertainties that can arise with climate change and the impacts of the ecosystem is that it's very difficult to assess and predict. It can arise from multiple and complex interactions across different levels of food webs, habitats, and spatial scales. It remains largely uncertain which members of historical ecological communities and ecosystems will adapt in place and move into different locations to follow optimal ecological and environmental conditions. These uncertainties complicate management decisions and when human interaction is advisable to assist persistence. It's also unclear how the restructuring of ecosystems will manifest in terms of the functioning and delivery of ecosystem services. For example, along the northeast Atlantic coast, there were native fiddler and blue crabs that have shifted their ranges north and are now found in New England coastal habitats that they weren't previously in. These species join an assemblage of native and invasive crab species, and all of these different species respond to changes in environmental and ecological conditions in different ways.
So in this, they were confident that the climates would induce changes. For example, they were confident on species would move to different ecosystems, however, not sure which specific species would be involved in their original ecosystems, and these changes have been documented. Species interactions with different species in their environments and change the input in the ecosystems. And then another thing that they were confident in were changes in the ecosystems can have problems, which as an example for this would be that they can create resources being inconsistent and making species spread quickly and change ecosystems, making them different than normal.
In conclusion, once again, our topic was on the impacts on the ecosystems. And climate change can affect ecosystems by changing the biotic or the abiotic characteristics, altering species interactions, potentially altering trophic relations. And some of our uncertainties or climate change difficult to assess and predict due to complex interactions across multiple food webs, habitats, and spatial scales, and also human interaction, whether or not that's being useful.
The key message is that climate change is altering ecosystem productivity, exacerbating the spread of invasive species, and changing how species interact with each other and with their environment. These changes are reconfiguring ecosystems in unprecedented ways.